I hate to tell you this, bro, but nobody knows you. That's exactly what I was thinking while I was holding up a wall at a sync conference like a nervous middle school kid at their first dance party. While everybody else is shaking hands, making deals, and kissing babies, I'm sitting on the sidelines watching everybody make moves. During this process,
Can you hear that?
I could hear the sound of my music screaming from my hard drive because I'm not trying to get it heard. But what if I told you that the invisible wall that's preventing you from getting to your next big sync placement at a conference like this isn't some lack of talent that you may have, but actually an untapped skill that we never get taught about in school. Networking is going to be your bulldozer through that invisible wall, and Excalibur Zero and I are going to show you exactly how it's done with
4 proven tactics that we personally tried out at a sync conference last week, including one special one that put us light years ahead of everybody else.
and turning isolation into invaluable connections. So imagine being in an elevator surrounded by industry vets. You got your sync agents, your music supervisors, they all just so happen to be going on the same floor as you.
And your perfect unheard song is in your pocket.
What if, in a few floors travel, you could tell a compelling story about who you are and what your music's all about? It's about crafting the best succinct put together story that makes them lean and say,
Tell me more.
and at this point, you may be thinking, what exactly am I going to say that's going to be that jaw-dropping in order to get their attention without sounding weird or sketch?
But you may be thinking, how in the world am I going to tell my whole life story in just a couple of minutes? You can't. The key is to prioritize. Think about the most vital piece of information they need to know about you and your music. Is it a unique blend of genres? Does it talk about a specific emotional journey?
Then consider the context of the conversation you're already possibly in.
Sync agents, music soups, and execs are always on the hunt for something new and fresh.
So whatever you say needs to showcase that you're capable, yet the missing puzzle piece to their next big project. You also need to make sure you're giving some type of impact. Again, this doesn't need to be a long story. The longer it is, the more they'll forget. Just make sure you say it in an unforgettable way.
So when they're working on a scene later, they instinctively think of your sound.
For instance, something like, yo, what's going on? My name's such and such. I like making ironic, dark sounding pop music with a positive twist on the lyrics. Something eclectic and weird,
You didn't see that coming?
but makes the supervisor or a sync agent go, that's actually kind of interesting.
Because not only have you now just shared in a brief interaction that reveals your musical identity, you also open up the door for future conversations and collaborations down the road.
As to what exactly you just told them. It's the curiosity that gets the sync placements. And this is your first secret weapon to sync licensing success, having a really good elevator pitch that's compact yet powerful that you can keep in your back pocket every time you meet someone new. And this isn't just a theory.
Stop the cap.
Using this exact tactic, I was able to grab the attention of a sync agency while I was on a Zoom call for about 3 minutes of interaction. 3 or 4 weeks later, he actually gave me a shot without even listening to any of my music for a custom job, and it ended up landing on a Ford commercial placement for quite a pretty penny. And just think, your music can have the same outcome and be pushed to hundreds of thousands of fans, all just from a well-crafted intro of who you exactly are. But this next step is very crucial because it ensures that what you just told them doesn't just fade away. Like how sometimes if you're recording a melody and someone rudely interrupts and then you come back to the DAW and you can't remember what you were just playing. Don't you just hate that? So picture you're going on a first date. On one scenario, your date's completely distracted. They're nodding their head and looking at their phone while you're trying to explain to them how you, I don't know, met your first dog or something.
In another, they're fully present, hanging on every word.
You can tell by their body language they're kind of leaned in.
Which would you prefer? Nobody wants to feel unheard or unimportant, so listen to what they have to say like you want them to listen to your music with complete attention, because they're going to start dropping clues on how you can actually help them.
It's fairly simple, but most people forget about this. Don't just hear them, listen. By listening, you can understand their needs and pay attention to what music they're currently looking for that they're actually legally able to talk about.
Be empathetic towards the difficulties they might be facing in finding the right track or artist.
You could offer solutions to certain problems. Maybe their gutters are dirty and they're complaining about it. If you know somebody, now you have another connection. Try to remember as many personal details as possible about the individual, like a favorite genre they vibe with or a recent project they really loved. Make a mental note of all these kinds of details.
It shows that you value them beyond just the business talk. Be genuine. Authenticity goes a long way. Be yourself and let your genuine interest in their work and challenges shine through.
So for instance, with me, I love comic books and actually ended up running into a music supervisor that had the same affinity for it. So guess what? Now we're much closer. And just another caveat, share but don't overshare. While it's important to share things about yourself, you don't want to come off as sounding like a narcissist. So make sure whatever you're talking about, it's relevant to the immediate conversation.
Because nobody really cares, to be honest.
So could you guess what the second secret weapon is? In the world of networking, being an active listener and a thoughtful speaker not only makes you memorable,
But also position positions you as someone who is easy and beneficial to work with. We're not just trying to get our music into their libraries,
because that's just ick. So actually listen to the contact that you're having a conversation with. Remember, we're trying to establish relationships for the long game. But how do we turn that spark into a flame instead of just being a random blurry memory? They might end up talking to hundreds of people before the end of the day. This next tactic is something tons of people completely look over, but it's actually proven to be a game changer for both Excalibur and I. Let's go back to the date scenario.
if you're trying to get that second date, it's not as easy as just saying, hey, you up the next day.
Possibly leaving a thoughtful note, recalling specific details from your previous conversation. This kind of stuff just proves that you were actually listening to them. But here's where the magic happens. Timing is key. You have to strike while the iron is hot.
Send that email or message while the convo is still fresh in their minds in like 24 to 48 hours, because it shows that you actually were present, value the connection, and didn't think your connection is just an opportunity for a random placement. Honestly, it's kind of grimy and will set you back if you come off that way.
I'm telling you, the less you look like you're needing a placement, the more placements will end up coming your way. Patience and respect are going to be your best friends in this journey, which is why the third tactic, if you haven't guessed yet, is doing a follow-up, which is basically just a consistent reminder that, hey, you're here, interested, and valuable. But if you think about it, these three tactics that we've talked about thus far are just with one person.
You can't talk to everyone, which is why you need this last technique to maximize your time if you're going to network opportunities.
Like Shades of Sync, shameless plug.
While you're still learning from these panels, staying on top of industry trends and showcasing your expertise.
This last tactic completely surprised Excalibur and I at how effective it was in skyrocketing our networking game.
What's more impactful, silently observing from the back of the room versus actively participating or even sharing your music at a feedback session with music soups and sync agents?
Being an active participant in different conversations, asking questions, not only elevates your visibility, but also opens a ton of different doors for future collaborations and publishing deals.
Because it shows that you're a student of the game and you're willing to improve.
So sometimes putting yourself out there and having your music judged on the spot in front of everyone could potentially be an investment towards the upswing of your career. Because maybe some of the panelists might not like your music, but there might be a sync agent in the audience that's like, yo, that's actually, I can use that. That's the great thing about educational conferences.
You don't have to know everything to get started. Staying approachable and open to collaborations turns those kind of sessions into a magnet for opportunities passively,
without having to try to meet everyone. Once again, shameless plug for ShadesCon. We're almost out of tickets for online and in person for Atlanta, Georgia on November 4th. Come through.
With these 4 tactics, we were able to dive deeper into the sync licensing world faster than anybody just using cold email tactics.
But having a good, valuable contact in the sync licensing game is just the tip of the iceberg. How you make sure that the music that you send them actually gets heard and is good for their specific projects. Check this video out here to make sure that your music is actually built for sync.